The story begins in 1939 with a man named Major Henrik who encounters Colonel Sobokinski. The colonel shares information that the highest command has ordered the troops to head south, indicating that Poland may soon engage in a battle against the Germans. Additionally, the colonel mentions that Major Henrik must stay for 12 hours and will be assisted by an army of 200 people. This news surprises Major Henrik, but he realizes that the government is utterly confused about the situation unfolding outside. Following the colonel's death, Captain Ludwig arrives and reports that the Germans have blockaded the city of Gendax, hindering their medical transportation. This raises concerns about the availability of medical supplies in the event of a war. The passing of time seems to blur together as they work diligently, preparing for defense and gathering everything necessary. Then, on September 1st, 1939, the Germans launched an attack on Westerplatte, catching them off guard with mortar assaults. In response, the troops stationed at the outpost immediately counterattacked towards the west. Grichman receives the order to fight once the enemy has entered their territory. Meanwhile, the Germans persisted in bombarding their defensive targets with mortar attacks, prompting the troops to swiftly assume their positions and sound the alarm as a warning of imminent danger. Inside, Ludwig took charge and led them to the defense post. He continuously directed the soldiers to engage the enemy using heavy weaponry. As the German troops advanced, they remained unaware that the Polish army was concealed, launching a defensive assault with gunfire. Upon reaching the beachfront, they managed to successfully counterattack the sizable enemy force. However, the situation suddenly took a dramatic turn when German warships maneuvered to various locations and unleashed destruction. This unexpected turn of events compelled Poland to reluctantly abandon its weapons and retreat. Shortly after, the Warsaw Radio of Poland broadcasted the news that the German troops had crossed the Polish border, violating the peace agreement. The enemy's aircraft also conducted bombings on cities, resulting in a complete halt of public and private activities. Consequently, the German forces launched another attack. However, before they could breach the line of defense, the Polish army successfully impeded their progress, forcing them to retreat. Unfortunately, during the skirmish, one of the soldiers tragically lost their life. In response, Henrik issued orders for his soldiers to assist the first sector, despite their reluctance due to its high level of danger. Amid the chaos, Henrik inadvertently activated explosives, causing harm to his comrades who were in the process of setting up barracks. The situation grew increasingly concerning as the relentless German assault continued, resulting in the reported deaths of 3 individuals. 3 others sustained severe injuries, while several suffered minor injuries, and 1 person was reported missing. In addition, the troops were in dire need of medical assistance as many soldiers had sustained severe injuries, including fractures and significant blood loss. This news understandably heightened Ludwig's anxiety. Shortly after, Henrik received a phone call from a platoon leader named Buder expressing his desire to lead his troops in recapturing Potsdam. However, Henrik, mindful of the heavy losses they had already suffered in Paris, declined to engage in an offensive war. Instead, he instructed the troops to retreat towards the west and ultimately replaced Grichman to assume command. This decision went against Ludwig's wishes and left Buder feeling quite angry. The passage of time seemed to blur, as it had only been 12 hours since they anticipated the arrival of reinforcements. However, when the expected communication arrived, it shattered their hopes as it stated that reinforcements could not be sent as initially anticipated. The following day, the German troops made their way back to the coastline. However, the Polish troops faced difficulties in retaliating due to the presence of thunderstorms. In the midst of this, some troops were taken by surprise when they witnessed a plane approaching. Initially, they believed it to be an Allied aircraft, but to their dismay, it turned out to be a German plane. To add to their distress, multiple planes appeared in formation, accompanied by dozens of fighter planes. The enemy forces amassed various tanks that belonged to Poland and launched a barrage of missiles, relentlessly destroying the Polish defense without giving them a chance to fight back. This devastating attack inflicted significant damage on the defensive position and shattered their morale. Amidst the chaos, tensions rose, and a disagreement escalated to the point where Buder resorted to kicking Grichman with a pistol. This unfortunate incident caused them to momentarily forget that cooperation was crucial during such trying times. As a result of the explosion and turmoil, the number of casualties and injuries in Taxir increased. Furthermore, Ludwig received news that the Germans had reached Benteng, and it became evident that they could no longer hold their ground. Furthermore, Henrik issued orders for the soldiers to burn various data and evidence. However, as soon as he arrived, Ludwig intervened and prevented the execution of these orders. He knew that St. Mayer had commanded the government to surrender. Just before a prisoner could raise the white flag, Ludwig swiftly intervened, ultimately being forced to shoot the prisoner. With a troubled state of mind, Ludwig approached Henrik while discarding the evidence, which demonstrated that their leader had given up on the war. Shortly after receiving assistance, the doctor revealed that Henrik was suffering from epilepsy. Consequently, Ludwig assumed the responsibility of commanding the troops and made a solemn promise not to leave the room until the war was over. However, one night the German troops launched another attack. The prepared soldiers retaliated by firing upon the enemy, successfully eliminating several of their troops and forcing them to retreat. Meanwhile, Henrik was acutely aware of the gravity of the situation. He woke up, but soon began experiencing intense hallucinations. The relentless fighting had deeply shaken his mental state, with numerous casualties among his soldiers. The following day, when Henrik regained his composure, Ludwig informed him that the Germans were launching attacks from the sea, with some assaults directed towards the west. It was suspected that there would be further ground operations on the same day. However, Henrik's recovery seemed insufficient, and he considered himself in a rather grave condition. Subsequently, Ludwig received a message indicating that several parts of Poland had fallen into German hands. The radio also broadcast the news that on September 3, 1939, France and Britain had declared war on Germany. This news brought great joy, and they immediately shared it with the troops, reassuring them that they were not alone and that they stood united with other European countries. The day carried on, but the Polish troops began to grow weary. They fought relentlessly every day, facing the harsh reality of Germany still occupying their territory, and even an incident where one soldier contemplated stabbing Buder. Buder had to apprehend the soldier, which Grichman disapproved of when he witnessed the detainment. Grichman attempted to defuse the situation with gentle words, but it ultimately escalated to the point where they attacked each other. Unbeknownst to them, as they were consumed by their desire to fight amongst themselves, the German troops were steadily approaching their territory. Ludwig swiftly recognized this and immediately issued a directive, prompting Grichman to realize the imminent threat and order an attack. The incident fueled Ludwig's anger, leading him to express his frustration without hesitation. He made it clear that he would not hesitate to shoot anyone deemed a traitor if such actions were repeated. During a patrol, the Polish troops suddenly found themselves under attack from a hidden post. To their surprise, the attack was carried out by their fellow Polish troops. Believing they were being attacked by the enemy, the troops retaliated until a signal was given, indicating that the attackers were their comrades. When they emerged from their hiding place, it became apparent that the reason for their attack was their desire to escape from the battle. Following this incident, Ludwig ordered that they be punished, as such a mistake could no longer be tolerated. With a heavy heart, Adolf carried out the task and brought the three individuals to the shore for execution. However, before the execution could take place, the Germans launched another attack. The three individuals used it as a chance to escape. The Polish troops opened fire, resulting in the deaths of all three of them. Subsequently, Adolf was overwhelmed by a profound sense of regret. He felt a heavy burden of guilt for the deaths of his three soldiers. Moreover, he began to harbor doubts about the futility of their resistance. Ultimately, Adolf became convinced that their Polish troops were destined to lose the battle. As the day progressed, Ludwig informed Henrik that the British and French forces would arrive the following night. However, Henrik remained disappointed with Ludwig's actions, as he had acted without Henrik's knowledge. Ludwig had given the order to kill the three troops who were deemed unfit to die in a futile manner. Nonetheless, Ludwig insisted that they were already deceased, as they were en route to their destination. Later, they stumbled upon a radio operator who revealed that the flag at Westerplatte remained intact, despite enduring repeated assaults. However, they also learned that the French had not sent any messages. After parting ways, Henrik encountered the doctor. He resigned himself to relinquishing his ancestral land and requested to be buried alongside his father if he were to die. The doctor also informed Henrik that all the injured soldiers were ordered to be killed to prevent further complications. Ludwig was already aware of this directive, but he preferred their deaths over surrender. Nightfall arrived, and Germany made a return, not with tanks or fighter planes, but with fire trucks. They swiftly launched an attack and destroyed their targets using mortars. However, the plan went awry when the train failed to reach its intended destination and exploded prematurely. As a result, the train carrying the oil tank set the surrounding forest ablaze. The conflagration spread rapidly, engulfing a vast area with flames. The troops also advanced to assist in extinguishing the forest fire. Following the attack, a debate unfolded between the two sides. Ludwig opposed the idea of having replacements on the front line, but those at the forefront were already exhausted and compelled to return to the west immediately as per the orders of the major. Subsequently, Henrik arranged a meeting with the platoon leader. Essentially, he conveyed that they would surrender the next day due to the highly tense situation. They had managed to hold out for 114 hours despite significant losses among their troops. The following day, Henrik discovered that Ludwig opposed his directive to send a replacement team. This time, Ludwig's actions had tested Henrik's patience to the limit. Henrik even made it clear that Ludwig would face consequences in the military once the war was over. However, the next day, the enemy launched another attack. The troops continued to fight valiantly to defend the fortress. Once again, Henrik convened a meeting where the decision to surrender surrender was unanimously reached as their only viable option. However, Ludwig intervened and requested to be killed, stating that he would rather be dead than surrender. On the seventh day, Germany drew closer and encircled them, launching even fiercer attacks. Nevertheless, the Polish troops displayed remarkable courage and resilience in their defense. Meanwhile, the wounded soldiers urgently required medical aid. During this critical moment, Henrik issued an order for all troops to surrender to the enemy. Furthermore, he took this action not out of cowardice, but for the well-being of all his soldiers. The government also communicated to all divisions that on September 7, 1939, Poland officially surrendered to Germany. Although many may have resisted this decision initially, ultimately surrendering was the most prudent course of action to put an end to their suffering. All divisions were assembled to receive their final orders. In a final message, Ludwig stated that if their national flag, the Burung Elang, remained intact and unblemished, they would cease resistance. Following this, the army would be detained, and their leaders would likely face severe consequences, potentially even death sentences. Following the ceremony, Ludwig was overwhelmed by feelings of defeat and disappointment, contemplating shooting himself. However, his comrades reminded him that this was not the ultimate conclusion. They too surrendered and faced the German leaders. On September 8, 1939, Germany's main headquarters announced the relocation of Westerplatte after its official occupation. The resistance had been quelled by anti-bomber troops and the assistance of German warships. Though the British and French were not prepared to engage in direct conflict with the Germans, they had hoped that the Polish troops would put up a stronger resistance, enabling their allies to devise a plan for retaliation. Unfortunately, in reality, Poland was easily defeated by the Germans. To this day, remnants of the Western forces and the guard posts of the Polish troops still stand. Following the war, one of the guard posts was transformed into a museum. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our video. Watch the next recaps on the screen and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.